The gavel struck with a thunderous echo, and silence consumed the courtroom like a suffocating wave. Emily Carter said, "This cannot be the end, not after everything." Her voice cracked, her body stiff with the weight of truth denied. Across the room, Richard Hale sat motionless, his gaze sharp and cold, lips curling with satisfaction. The guarded survivor's breath hitched as if the verdict had pierced her lungs. Michael Reed whispered, "We'll fight this, Emily. We are not done." His words tried to soothe but fell hollow in the oppressive air. Laura Bennett placed a hand on Emily's trembling shoulder, her warmth masking hidden calculations. From the back, young Alex Parker shifted uneasily, his restless energy radiating in sharp contrast to the despair. Judge Marcus Harper leaned forward, his eyes unreadable, his authority absolute. Yet beneath his solemn mask flickered a shadow of doubt. Emily whispered again, "Justice was never meant to be this fragile," her fingers tightening around the unread letter in her coat pocket. The chamber air thickened, heavy with dread, as if the world teetered between collapse and revelation. Emily stumbled out of the courtroom, the heavy oak doors closing with a finality that felt like chains. Laura followed closely, her voice tender, "You must rest, Emily." Yet beneath the tone was an unspoken claim of control. Michael walked behind them, jaw set, silence masking his anger. Alex lingered near the exit, eyes wide as if watching shadows move where none existed. The street outside was wet, rain still glistening on cobblestones under cold yellow lamps. Emily said, "Rest is for those who can forget, and I cannot." Her reflection trembled in the puddle at her feet. Richard remained inside, a faint silhouette framed by the courtroom window, his form tall and unyielding against the dim glow. The night air cut sharp, laced with the scent of iron and wet stone, a reminder that justice was slipping further away. Emily reached the alley beside the courthouse, her steps unsteady. Michael said, "We need to gather proof, something they cannot twist." His tone was firm, his presence grounding. Alex crouched near the wall, scratching notes in his sketchbook with frantic energy. Laura's voice drifted low, "Evidence means nothing if power controls the scales." Emily pressed her palm to the cold brick, whispering, "Then we break the scales." The night deepened, shadows crawling over stone walls like living specters. Michael clenched his fists, resolve burning against the chill air. Alex muttered, "Secrets hide in plain sight," his words half-spoken, half-dreamed. Richard stood inside his office overlooking the courthouse square, tall windows framing his silhouette. He raised a glass of scotch, voice low, "They will learn control is stronger than truth." His reflection warped in the glass, twin images of power and corruption. Papers lay stacked on his desk, every one a weapon shaped as evidence. Behind him, shadows loomed longer than the man himself. Richard said, "Justice bends to those who know how to hold the strings." A faint knock sounded at the door, hesitation heavy. He did not turn, lips curving with quiet confidence. Emily sat alone on a bench at the edge of the courthouse square, rain-soaked air chilling her bones. She whispered, "They will bury the truth, but I will not let it stay buried." The sealed envelope rested heavy in her lap, edges worn by years of silence. Laura's words echoed in her mind, soothing yet barbed. Michael's presence lingered, his loyalty steady but scarred by past compromises. From the shadows, Alex sketched her outline, his strokes quick, almost frantic. Emily looked up at the courthouse dome, its stone cold and towering against the night sky. She murmured, "The fight begins tonight." Emily sat on her apartment floor, the unread letter clutched tightly in her hand, her breathing shallow and uneven. She whispered, "Why am I still afraid of opening this?" The walls carried silence heavy enough to suffocate her. The letter's edges were frayed, each mark a reminder of years spent avoiding truth. She set it down beside her coffee mug, cold and half full, steam long gone. Laura's voice echoed from a phone call earlier, "You are stronger than you realize, Emily." Yet doubt seeped into every word. Emily looked at the window, raindrops streaking like trails of tears. Her reflection in the glass was pale and worn, her eyes rimmed with sleeplessness. She whispered again, "Strength does not erase the weight of survival." A knock startled her from the door, but she stayed still, her body bracing as if for impact. Laura entered Emily's apartment with a gentle smile, her presence filling the air with warmth. She placed her hand on Emily's shoulder and said, "You don't have to fight this alone." Her tone was soft, steady, almost like a lullaby. Emily lowered her eyes, whispering, "But you cannot carry this weight for me." Laura moved closer, her perfume subtle, her voice calm. "I don't need to carry it. I only need to remind you that you are not alone." Emily felt a warmth, yet beneath it, a strange unease lingered. Michael's message vibrated on Emily's phone, unread, his words waiting. Laura said again, "Trust me, Emily, I will never let you fall." Emily nodded faintly, her lips pressed tight, her body rigid despite the comfort offered. The room glowed with soft lamplight, wrapping them in deceptive calm. The night cracked open when Alex stormed into the apartment, his voice sharp. He said, "You don't know half of what's being hidden." His eyes glimmered with restless urgency. Emily stood startled, her hand pressing the envelope close to her chest. Laura frowned, voice even. "You should not be here, Alex." He ignored her, pacing, his sketchbook clutched tightly. Emily asked, "What do you know?" His gaze cut through her, and he muttered, "Pieces of a past you keep avoiding." The words unsettled her, heavy with implication. Laura's hand tightened on Emily's arm, her smile thin but unyielding. Alex threw his sketchbook on the table, pages flipping to reveal frantic drawings of courthouse corridors. He hissed, "Secrets are screaming in these walls." Emily stood between Alex and Laura, her chest rising fast, the envelope shaking in her grasp. She said, "I cannot run any more, I must see this through." Alex's sharp tone softened for a moment. "Then stop letting others decide what's truth." Laura leaned in, her voice low and velvety. "And what if opening that letter destroys you?" The words struck deep, pulling Emily into silence. Michael arrived at the door, knocking firmly, calling, "Emily, open up." His steady voice pushed through the tension, a reminder of loyalty waiting outside. Emily's hands trembled as she looked between them all. The moment stretched like glass ready to shatter. Michael entered, his shoulders square, eyes firm, a presence that steadied the storm. He said, "Emily, you know I will not leave you in this fight." She looked at him, her voice fragile. "And what if this fight costs more than loyalty can bear?" Michael drew closer, his tone unwavering. "Then I pay that cost." Laura stood quietly, her expression unreadable, her shadow stretching across the room like a web. Alex muttered, "Truth doesn't wait, it burns until it's free." Emily gripped the envelope tighter, her voice breaking. "If I open this, there's no return." Silence settled thick, everyone locked in a moment where choice weighed heavier than fate. Emily sat in the dim archives room beneath the courthouse, old documents stacked like fragile bones around her. Michael said, "This file should clear doubts, but why was it buried here?" His tone was steady yet laced with suspicion. Emily flipped open the folder, her hand shaking as photos slid across the table. She whispered, "These are too perfect, as if someone planned for us to find them." Alex leaned over her shoulder, his eyes wide, muttering, "Planted truths are still lies." Laura stood at the edge of the room, arms folded, her face unreadable in the half-light. She said, "Be grateful the evidence exists, no matter its origin." Emily shook her head, her voice sharp, "Not if it's crafted to mislead." The room's silence deepened, every breath weighed down by the stench of conspiracy. Emily pressed the photographs against the desk, her voice breaking. "Why does this feel rehearsed?" Michael paced, fists clenched, muttering, "Because someone wants us chasing their trail, not the truth." Alex scribbled furiously in his sketchbook, his restless strokes echoing his unease. He said, "The shadows tell stories the evidence never will." Laura stepped closer, her expression calm but eyes sharp, whispering, "Sometimes the truth must be shaped to survive." Emily turned sharply, anger flashing. "Truth cannot survive when twisted." Michael slammed his hand against the shelf, dust scattering, his frustration spilling. The fragile silence fractured into a storm of mistrust. Alex slammed his sketchbook shut, his voice sharp. "You all act like pawns and don't see the board." Emily startled, whispering, "Alex, what do you mean?" His eyes gleamed, and he said, "They've been using you. Feeding you illusions." Laura stepped forward, her voice sweet but firm. "Don't listen to his paranoia." Alex glared back. "You hide truths behind your smile." Michael raised his hand to silence them, saying, "This is falling apart because we don't trust each other." Emily's pulse quickened, her thoughts unraveling as betrayal seeped from every corner. The room felt smaller, the walls pressing inward, shadows moving like predators waiting. Laura's calm exterior cracked for an instant, her eyes flashing with something darker before she spoke. She said, "You think you can unravel this by yelling at shadows?" Emily leaned forward, her voice hard. "I think you're hiding something." Alex smirked bitterly, muttering, "Finally she sees it." Michael looked torn, his eyes flicking between them, his loyalty strained. Laura's hand rested on the file, her tone velvety. "Secrets keep us alive, not destroy us." Emily's heart pounded, the envelope in her coat suddenly heavier. The room pulsed with tension, every word carving deeper wounds. The door to the archive creaked open, and Richard entered, his presence towering. He said, "I see you've found my gift." His smug tone dripped venom. Emily froze, her pulse racing, as the puzzle pieces twisted in her mind. Michael stepped forward, his voice steady. "Why plant false evidence, Richard?" Richard smiled thinly, "Because truth is overrated, but control lasts forever." Alex hissed, "You can't twist what's buried deep." Richard's eyes locked on him, his gaze chilling. "Even ghosts can be rewritten." Laura turned away, her silence damning. Emily's hand tightened around the envelope as if clinging to the last shred of untainted truth. The archive lights flickered as Richard placed the file on the table, his smirk sharp. He said, "This witness you trusted has a past darker than the truth itself." Emily's breath caught, her voice shaking. "Who are you talking about?" Richard's eyes shifted to Laura, his words deliberate. "The woman standing beside you, your savior, your comfort." Laura's expression faltered, her mask slipping for the briefest second. Michael clenched his jaw, muttering, "This is a lie, another manipulation." Richard chuckled low, "Not a lie, a history rewritten." Alex whispered, "I knew her warmth burned too cold." Emily's chest tightened, betrayal swelling, as the fragile trust she clung to crack. Emily turned sharply toward Laura, her voice trembling. "What did you hide from me?" Laura's calm voice faltered. "There are things you cannot understand." Michael said, "Enough half-truths, we deserve answers." Laura's eyes glistened as she whispered, "I once stood with him, believing control was survival." Richard smirked, sipping from his glass. "She was more than with me, she built the cage you all stand in." Alex slammed his sketchbook shut, muttering, "I told you she was never what she seemed." Emily's hands shook violently, her heart breaking, the letter in her pocket suddenly heavier than stone. Alex stepped forward, his voice rising. "You all live blind, but I see what connects you." He opened his sketchbook, pages filled with frantic drawings of Richard and Laura, their faces entwined with courthouse walls. Emily gasped, "How long have you known this?" Alex answered, "Long enough to know truth is always bartered." Michael's voice hardened, then "Stop circling riddles and speak plainly." Alex's glare sharpened. "Laura was part of the plan that ended the life we mourn." Laura's face broke, her whisper barely audible. "I tried to undo it, but it was too late." Silence suffocated the room, each truth carving deep wounds. Michael's fists slammed against the table, dust rising. He said, "You betrayed her memory for survival." Laura's tears fell, her voice breaking. "I never meant to destroy her. I wanted to protect her." Emily's heart froze, her whisper cutting, the lingering memory. "You were there when she vanished." Richard's voice sliced in. "She did not vanish, she was taken." Alex's eyes widened, his voice a whisper, "And the person who let it happen is standing here." Laura dropped her gaze, guilt etched across her face, the truth spilling from shadows like poison. Emily staggered back, her chest heavy with grief and fury. Emily's voice cracked as she shouted, "You were supposed to protect us, not destroy us." Laura raised her hands, pleading, "I tried, Emily, I tried to make it right." Richard's smirk deepened, his words venomous. "Trust is the sweetest lie." Michael pulled Emily closer, his tone steady. "We stand together, or we fall apart." Alex hissed, "She chose her side long ago." Laura collapsed to her knees, whispering, "I never stopped loving her memory, but love was not enough." Emily clutched the envelope with white knuckles, her heart torn between forgiveness and fury. The room felt as if it would collapse under the weight of shattered bonds. The courtroom was packed, silence gripping the air as Emily stood before the judge, her envelope clutched tight. Richard's gaze burned through her, his smirk daring her to falter. Michael whispered from her side, "This is the moment." Emily's breath trembled as she opened the letter at last. The paper, old and fragile, every word written like a wound reopened. She read aloud, her voice breaking. The truth was stolen, but not erased. Gasps rippled through the crowd, eyes darting toward Richard. He laughed softly. "Words on paper cannot undo what's been sealed in power." Alex shouted, "They undo lies when spoken in light." Laura sat behind Emily, her face pale, eyes haunted, her silence screaming guilt. Emily raised her chin, tears brimming. "This truth belongs to all of us, not to you." The room's stillness carried the weight of history breaking apart. The judge leaned forward, his gavel tapping softly as he said, "This court demands clarity." Emily's voice steadied. "This letter is from the one we lost, proof of betrayal, long hidden." Richard rose to his feet, his voice sharp. "Forgery, manipulation, nothing more." Michael stepped forward, his tone firm. "Then why were these files buried under lock and guarded by silence?" Laura's whisper drifted across the room. "Because I helped bury them." Gasps cut the silence, the gallery erupting with murmurs. Emily turned to her, voice laced with pain. "Why did you choose him over us?" Laura's eyes flooded with tears, her lips trembling, "Because fear is stronger than faith." The judge's gaze sharpened, the weight of the revelation shaking the chamber. Richard slammed his fist on the table, his voice echoing, "Control cannot be undone by fragile words." Emily shouted back, "Control dies when truth is freed." Michael placed his hand on the table, steady. "You underestimated us." Richard's laugh was hollow, his eyes cruel. "You think justice bends to ideals, but it bends to power." Alex's voice rose from the back, trembling but fierce, "Not when the forgotten are remembered." Laura covered her face with her hands, her voice muffled. "I cannot erase what I've done." Emily's voice cracked but carried strength. "Then let the truth judge us all." The tension crackled like fire ready to consume the chamber. The courtroom doors burst open as new evidence was carried in by officials, boxes of files long hidden. Emily gasped, her voice breaking. They existed all along. Richard's face drained of color, his smirk faltering. Michael said, "Every shadow you built is collapsing." The judge ordered the boxes placed on the bench, the room erupting in whispers of disbelief. Alex shouted, "You can bury the living, but the truth always claws out." Laura's sobs filled the silence. "I knew, but I was too afraid to fight him." Richard's voice cracked with sudden rage. "This trial is a circus." Emily held the letter high, her voice steady. "No, this is justice breaking chains." The air pulsed with the weight of irreversible revelation. The judge slammed the gavel, his voice resonant. "This court will not ignore the truth unveiled here." Emily's tears streamed, her whisper heavy at last, her voice is heard. Michael's hand rested gently on her shoulder, steadying her. Alex's eyes shone with vindication, his voice sharp. "The scales are breaking." Laura collapsed to the floor, sobbing, "Forgive me, though I don't deserve it." Richard's face twisted, his last words venomous. "Justice is nothing but an illusion." Emily's gaze locked on him, her voice steel. "Then let this illusion shatter you." The room roared with the echo of the gavel. History reshaped in a single moment. The courtroom emptied slowly, leaving silence heavy as stone. Emily remained at the center, the letter still in her hand, its weight both victory and grief. Michael stood beside her, his voice low. "You did it, Emily. The truth has been freed." She whispered, "But justice feels broken, like glass that cuts even when whole." Laura knelt nearby, her sobs echoing. "I betrayed her memory, and nothing can restore it." Alex leaned against the wooden bench, his eyes distant. "Truth burns, but it never heals the same way." Richard was dragged away in cuffs, his smile faint, muttering, "Illusions always return." Emily closed her eyes, whispering, "Then let me carry what remains of her." The judge's gavel still echoed in her mind, a haunting refrain of what was won and what was lost. Outside the courthouse, night rain returned, soaking the square in shimmering reflections. Emily lifted her face to the drizzle, her whisper soft. "She is still gone," but her voice spoke tonight. Michael pulled his coat tighter, his voice firm. "Her voice lives because of you." Laura stood apart beneath a lamp, tears streaking her face, whispering, "Forgiveness cannot erase what I've done." Alex drew quick lines in his sketchbook, muttering, "The rain remembers more than we do." Emily clutched the letter close, feeling it pulse like a fragile heartbeat. The courthouse dome loomed above them, towering cold and silent, as if watching with indifference. The air was thick with mourning and resolve. Emily sat in her apartment, the letter unfolded on the table, candlelight flickering across the ink. She whispered, "These words will haunt me forever." Michael leaned on the wall, quiet strength in his eyes, saying, "Haunting is better than silence." Laura sat in the corner, hollow and trembling, her voice fragile. "I don't deserve to be here, yet I cannot leave." Alex sprawled across the floor, sketching, his mutters steady. "The dead live in every line we draw of them." Emily's hands shook as she traced the writing, her tears falling on the paper. She whispered, "She wanted us to know, even if it destroys us." Silence pressed in, broken only by candlelight flicker. Michael poured whiskey into 2 glasses, sliding one toward Emily. He said, "This is not the ending, only the beginning of another fight." Emily shook her head, voice weary. "I am tired of wars I never asked for." Laura spoke faintly, "You carry wounds I carved, yet you still stand." Emily's glare pierced her, whispering, "Standing is not living." Alex rose from the floor, eyes sharp. "She would want you to keep walking, not just surviving." Michael raised his glass, his voice steady, "To the broken who still fight." Emily lifted hers with trembling fingers, whispering, "To her memory that never leaves." The glasses clinked, fragile like their fractured bonds. The night deepened, shadows pressing against the windows. Emily placed the letter back in its envelope, her whisper solemn. Justice was spoken, but not delivered. Michael's gaze steadied, his voice firm. "Justice is not a moment. It's a burden we carry." Laura wiped her tears, voice fragile. "Burden is all I have left." Alex stepped toward the window, muttering, "Truth has cracks, but light still escapes." Emily stood, her shoulders heavy yet upright. "We cannot bury what was revealed." The room fell silent, candle burning low, their faces carved by exhaustion and resolve. Outside the storm raged, echoing their fractured triumph. Dawn bled into the city as Emily walked the river path, the letter resting against her pulse like a second heartbeat. She said, "If truth is a door, I opened it, but it swings in both directions." Wind skimmed the water, and the echo of the gavel rode its surface like a warning not yet spent. Michael called, his voice steady through static, "You are not alone, not today." She answered, "I am alone with what it cost, and I will carry it." A stray siren cut the morning hush, and the city exhaled, as if expelling a dream it could not keep. Emily folded the letter once, then again, and whispered, "We begin again from what survived." Emily returned to the bench beneath the elm where she always pretended time could be forgiven. Alex approached with a sketch and said, "I drew what the walls tried to hide." She unrolled corridors that bent toward a single locked door and whispered, "I know that turn." He said, "I will keep watch when you cannot." She set a locket on the bench and listened as remembered humming bled through traffic. Laura stood across the path, not crossing, and murmured, "I will testify even if it breaks me." Emily nodded once, and wind scattered wet leaves like brief notes from a lost song. News vans crowded the courthouse steps, while officials muttered about appeals and procedure. Emily said, "Justice wears paper armor when power sharpens knives." Michael replied, "Then we hammer the paper until it becomes steel." Richard passed in a transport van, eyes glassy with calculation, his smile flickering like a bad signal. The judge moved briskly through cameras, and his silence felt heavier than a ruling. Alex filmed the crowd and said, "Memory is evidence when records are erased." Emily faced the marble doors and whispered, "Let them appeal to fear. I will appeal to the living." In a small coffee shop, steam blurred the windows while plans drew themselves in pencil and doubt. Michael said, "We go public with the files and force discovery." Laura gripped the cup and said, "I will sign and accept the crossfire." Emily answered, "Testimony is not redemption, but it can be a start." Alex slid a list across the table and said, "Here are the names who knew and pretended not to." The room smelled of burnt sugar and resolve, and the clock clicked like a countdown. Emily said, "Then we move before the night learns our route." Night settled on the courthouse as if the sky pressed its thumbprint over the city. Emily stood at the steps, the letter warm from her palm, and said, "Your voice will not be caged again." Michael waited below, a steady shape in the dark, and answered, "I am here when the echo fades." Laura watched from the shadow, guilt and courage sharing one body. Alex filmed the final shot and whispered, "Say it for the record." Emily faced the doors that had swallowed so many truths and breathed, "Remember her." Then she spoke the line that would echo longest, "Justice is the name we give to the courage that refuses to forget."